So we are going to prepare a particular web page in which a digital clock will be presented. So let's move to our Sublime and let's see how we can do this. So this is my Sublime text editor. We'll be using this text editor to do all our projects. So let's begin with creating our file. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll create a folder in our desktop. So here is my desktop. Let's create a folder here and I will keep it as JavaScript projects. Right now in this folder, we have to create our own file. So what we'll do, we'll go to a Sublime and we will click on file. We'll click on open folder. And from here in the desktop, we'll choose JavaScript projects. So it will open up my folder. Now in this folder, I want to create our file. So I'll right click, I'll write new file and I'll save this file in JavaScript project folder with the name of clock.html. Okay, now why I'm writing HTML? Because we are going to prepare an HTML document and after that we are going to write JavaScript codings in that particular file. So for right now, let's do it as clock.html. Now if you guys know what is HTML and the basics of HTML, you must be knowing in Sublime, if you're writing the angular bracket with HTML, you'll get the whole skeleton of your HTML code, right? Now here I'm going to mention the title as digital clock. Now what we are going to do in this particular video, that we are going to write each and every step, and at the same time we will see our web page also, that what all changes is happening in the web page. So let's save this particular document. So and right click, copy file path. Let's open my Chrome and let's paste this particular path here, hit enter, and you can see this is my web page. And here you can see the title which is saying digital clock. So we have now created our digital clock web page. Now still we have the whole coding left, right? So let's begin with it. Now in the body, what we are going to do, first of all, we know that we want to present our digital clock at a place, right? So let's create our div element there and let's give an ID. So let's give an ID there as digital clock. Okay, and let's close this particular div because my whole particular div thing will come here. Okay, so in the body we will only keep this much. Okay, and now what we'll do, we'll create our script. So let's hit enter and let's start writing our main code, which is our JavaScript code. So first of all, let's understand what do we want here. We want a digital clock. That means we want the web page to present the hours, the minutes, and the seconds, right? And the reason being saying is that we want our hours, minutes, and seconds in this particular web page. From where you can get that? You can get that from our date function, right? So what we can do here is we can first create our one variable which is date. Okay, and this date will be the object. So in JavaScript we can create an object of any particular method or any constructor. So what we can do, we can create this variable as an object of date method. Okay, so we have created this particular variable which is of date method. This is the variable, also you can say reference variable or an object. Okay, now let's bring our hour variable. So this is h, which is our hour variable, and we will use this particular object to get our hours. Okay, so from this particular object, it is going to the date method and getting the hours from there. If you remember, this date method is nothing but which gives you your current date and time from the system. So this date is having your current date, time, hour, minutes, milliseconds, everything. And from this date, we have created an object via which I want only the hours. That's it. Okay, like this, we can do it for all the rest of the things. So we can do it for our minutes and we can do the same thing for our seconds, right? So now we have our hour, minutes, and seconds. We need to print it out. So how we can print it out? What we can do is in JavaScript, we have document.getElementById. So we will use that. And here we will give the ID as what? So you can see, I want to present my digital clock thing in this particular div, which is in our body. So this particular ID I'm going to mention here so that my digital clock will be presented here. Okay, now I will write here dot inner HTML equal to how I'm going to print out my particular digital clock. I want to print it out as hour and then colon and then minute and then colon and then second, because that is how digital clock is working, right? So what we'll do is we want the hour first, and then we want colon, then we want the minute, and then we want colon, and again we want the second. So this is how we are going to print our hour, minutes and seconds in our web page. Okay, so we have done most of the necessary things. Let's save this and let's see our web page. Is something coming or not? Okay, something is coming and it's very small. So let me maximize my browser screen. So remember that I'm maximizing it. I have not written any code in HTML to do that. I'm just doing it manually. So this is what I'm getting. What is it? It is 10:59:10, and which is my current time, right? You can see here it is 10:59 a.m., right? That is what is coming. But is this clock moving? So this clock is not moving right now, right? Why it is not moving? The seconds you can see it is not moving. If I reload my page, then you can see the change is happening. But whenever I reload my page, only that time the change is happening. That means my code is working fine, but this whole code is not repeating every second. The whole code should repeat every second automatically, right? And that's when my particular digital clock will run every second and it will rerun every second automatically, right? So how we can do that? Let's do it. What we are going to do, because we want this whole thing to be reloaded again and again, so let's keep it in a function. So what we'll do here is we'll first create a function. Let's say the name of the function is showtime. Okay, and because I want this whole thing, so I will close it at the last. Now you can see this is now a bundle, right? Function is, that is why function is used, right? Because in function we write a particular code which can be rerun again and again. That is what we have done. Okay, now we need to run this particular function again and again. So first let's call this particular function. How we can call it? So what we have to do, we have to call this something like this. So this is how we actually call our function. So we have done that. Now let's save this and let's see what is happening. So you can see still it is the same. Why? Because what we have done till now is we have just written this particular thing inside a function and we are calling that function. How many times? Only one time. So again, we have not done anything. We have just written a code which is again rerunning this part of code one time, right? So still my digital clock is not moving. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this particular function rerun every second. How we are going to do that? We are going to use a particular function which is called as set timeout. Now what is the set timeout? I'll tell you. Set timeout is a function, is a predefined function which actually sets the time till what time you want to run this function. Till that time, that particular function will rerun again and again. So I want it to run every second. That means every 1000 milliseconds, because 1 second is equal to 1000 milliseconds. And in this set timeout parameter, we have to write milliseconds. That is why I've written here 1000. So let's give a semicolon and let's save this and let's go to our web page. Let's see if it is running every second. So as you can see, every second my particular digital clock is running and these seconds are changing. Because seconds are changing, so my minutes are also changing after the seconds completed 60 seconds, right? So I think we have already got the digital clock, but still this is not correct. Why is it not correct? Okay, we know that our digital clock is working, but if you see this 3, if you see any digital clock, we will not see a single number digit in any digital clock. Let it be hour, minute or second, all these things will be double digit, right? That means 11, 0, 3, 42. Something like that should be coming, right? So how we can do that? Also, if you see here, this is nothing but not showing that whether it is AM or PM, right? We are very not sure that whether it is 11 PM or 11 AM, right? So what is it? It is a 24-hour format, whether it is a 12-hour format, what is it? We are not being able to understand it, right? So what we'll do is, we will write here one more variable, which is session. So in this session, we'll be able to know whether my particular time is AM or PM. Right now, by default, this is your AM. So what I'll do, I'll write here AM, because by default it is AM, right? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write some conditional statements to make sure that it is following a 12-hour format or 24-hour format. So let's see what code we can write here. So what we are going to do here is, if hour is equal to 0, when the hour becomes 0, when is the time when hour will become 0? It will be in the midnight, right? When it is exceeding 11:59, right? Well, 11 hours 59 minutes. Once it becomes 11 hours 60 minutes, it becomes 0, right? That is what happens. So what I want here is, when the hour is equal to 0, I don't want it to print it as 0. I want to print it as 12. Now what will happen? Every time the clock ticks 0, that means 12, it will print 12. It will not print 0. So what I'm doing here, I am not making it 24-hour format. I'm actually making it a 12-hour format, because here I'm writing h equal to 12. If it prints 0, that means it is 24-hour format, right? That is how clock works, right? Okay, this is done. Right now you won't be able to see any changes in your original clock in the hour section, because it is AM, right? So it is not following. But once it is evening, then you can see it will be in a 12-hour format. That means if I run this particular program today at 4 p.m., so it will say 04, right? It will not say 16:4, correct? Now that we have understood this condition, which is nothing but changing our 24-hour format to 12-hour, let's see how we can make our session from AM to PM or PM to AM, right? So what we'll do here is, let's say that, hour is greater than 12. Let's say that it is 1 p.m. Okay. So what I want is, I want that when it is 13, right? When my hour is 13, then I don't want it to print 13. I want it to print how much? I want it to print 1, because 13 hour is nothing but 1 p.m. So what I'll do, what I can do here is 13 minus 12. 13 minus 12 will give me 1. So my formula can be h equal to h minus 12. What it will do? Suppose if hour is 13, then 13 minus 12, that means it will give 1. So hour will now become 1. And that is how you actually change your 24-hour format into 12-hour format. So these two programs, these two conditional statements is making sure that your code or that your digital clock is becoming a 12-hour format, right? Okay. Now, once this happens, I want my session to be changed. Why? Because after 12 hours, always it will be PM, right? 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., right? Till midnight. It will be PM itself. So I'm writing here PM. Now I've written the session PM. Let's see what happens here. Nothing will happen because right now it's morning. So it's 11. But the problem is, it is not showing me AM or PM, right? What is the reason? Why is it not showing me the AM or PM? The reason is, where I'm printing stuffs, I have not written session. If you will not write the variable name there, then how come the value will be fetched, right? So right now you can see it is saying 11 AM. Why? The reason being, the 11 is not greater than 12, right? 11 is smaller than 12. So this condition is false, and that is why this particular thing is skipped. If I run this particular digital clock at 4 p.m. today, then it will be 04 minutes and seconds and then PM, right? So this is a basic code how you can change your 24-hour format to 12-hour format. These two codes are important. Now the left part is what? The left part is, if you can see, this double digit should be there, right? All the hour, minutes and seconds should be double digit, which is not there right now. So what we can do here for it? So let's see what formula we can write. What do we want here is, we want our hour, minute or seconds to be in a double digit. So what we can do? Suppose if the hour is less than 10. Less than 10 means 0 to 9, right? So what do I want here when it is 0 to 9? I want to add a 0 in the beginning as a prefix, right? So what we can do? We can add a 0 to our hour. That's what I want, right? That's what I want. If the hour is less than 10, that is 0 to 9, I want to add a 0 in the beginning, right? The same thing I have to do it with my minutes and seconds also. So let's do that. Let's write here m less than 10, and here I'm going to write m equal to 0 plus m, right? The same thing I have to do again for second. So let me do one thing. Let me copy this and let me paste it here. And let's do here. Yes. right? Because my seconds is represented in S variable. Done. Now let's see whether this is doing some changes in my code or not. So if you see right now it's 53, 54, 55, 56. It is counting it, right? Once it reaches 0, 1, and you can see once I reload my page, seconds are coming in 2 digits, right? Double digits. So you can see right now it is looking like a perfect digital clock, correct? So the same thing will happen in your minutes and hours also, because we have written that particular thing here. But don't you think this particular code is really very big, and it is taking so much of lines? If you can see, it is taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines to just do that simple thing, right? Is there any other way that we can do the same thing? Yes, there is. What we can use is we can use a ternary operator. Okay, so what we'll do, we will comment this particular section, and I will write a alternate code for it, and let's see, let's compare how much lines of code is that code taking. So what I'll do here is I will write h equal to, what is the condition? Because in ternary operator we write the condition first. Condition is h less than 10. If this is true, then what will happen? Then we have to add a prefix 0 to my hour. If the condition is false, then what I want just the hours. That is what I have written here. Again, I'm going to explain you for the minutes. So the condition is if the minute is less than 10, this is the condition. If the condition is true, then I want to add 0 to my minutes. And if the condition is false, then I just print my minute. Right? The same thing I'll do with my seconds also. And you can see how many lines of codes it is taking. It is just taking 3 lines. So whether you will write a 9 line of code or whether you will write a 3 line of code, that depends on you, right? And you can see it will work the same. So if you see, still the 0 is coming here, right? Okay, so this is a perfect code for a digital clock. Okay, but right now what we will do is, one thing is left, which is your CSS, to make this particular digital clock beautiful. So what we can do is, let me make it as 100%, and you can see the clock is looking really very small. So let's write some CSS and let's see how we can represent it in a more attractive manner. So we have written the HTML and JavaScript for this particular our digital clock. Now let's write our style. So we'll do the internal style so that you will not get confused. And in this style, what we are going to do, first of all, in the body, I'm going to make the background totally black. I'll tell you the reason why I'm doing that. Once it is black, obviously the whole screen will become black and you won't be able to see your clock. That is so obvious. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to write my clock style. So for that, what I want to do is I want to give a class here in which I'm going to write clock. Okay. And then here dot clock. Now I want to give all the respective styles to this particular clock, because this is the div element where my digital clock is coming, right? So this is where I want my all my styles for this particular clock. So what I'm going to do first of all here is position absolute, because your position should be absolute, and then I'll give the color first of all because I want to see my digital clock. So if you now see here, the code, the particular digital clock is coming, but it is very small. That is why you can't see it. Let me zoom it and you can see this particular clock is here. Let me bring it back to 100% because I want to make sure that I'm doing the font size from the style and not from it manually, right? So now I've given the color, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to place my digital clock in the center. So from the top, I'm going to give 50%, so that from the top it will go down. So you can see this is the 50%. You can see this is in the middle right now. Okay, and now let me write here. So because I want to move it in the center, that means I have to give what? I have to give left, and left also I'll try to give it here 50%. So top and left 50% will present anything in your center. So if you see, it is in the center, right? Okay, now what I'm going to do, so here position absolute, color green, top and left we have written. Now let me write here transform. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some animation thing here, and let's translate X to minus 50% and translate Y to, let's say, minus 50%. So I'm just giving an animation to it. Let's see what happens. This is, I'm just transforming. So you can see now it is in the center, the exact center. Even if I zoom it, it is in the exact center. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color I've already given. So now I'm going to give the font size, and font size I'm going to mention here is 60 pixels. So let's see what happens here. So you can see now it is a little bit bigger, right? Okay. Now, next what I'm going to do, see the green color is not looking very nice. So let me give lime, and now it is a little bit bright, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the font family because that is a little bit simple. So let me give here Orbitron, and in the letter spacing, I'll give 10 pixels. That means all the hour, minutes and all, the letters will be having some spaces. So let's see now what is happening, and you can see our digital clock is now beautified, and this is how it is looking. It is working fine, and every second this particular digital clock is running.